let's talk about one of the most dramatic stories in modern tech, the rise and spectacular fall of PayTM Payments Bank. We're going to unpack how one of India's biggest, most disruptive companies went from being a household name to facing a complete regulatory shutdown. And look, this isn't just some boring business case study. It's a true saga of incredible growth, brilliant ideas, and a high-stakes collision with the ironclad rules of finance.
So that's the big question, right? How on earth does an app that literally redefined how an entire country thinks about money end up losing its own bank? It's a fascinating story, and there are some huge lessons here for innovators everywhere.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start at the very beginning with its origins and the one event that was like pouring gasoline on a fire. Then we'll get into the genius innovations that fueled its insane growth, its absolute peak as a financial titan, and then the compliance crisis that started the whole thing unraveling. That leads us to the final verdict and, of course, the big takeaways from this cautionary tale.
So let's rewind a bit, all the way back to 2010. Founder Vijay Shekhar Sharma kicks things off with a pretty simple idea. PayTM, pay through mobile. At first, it was just a straightforward platform for topping up your phone credit and paying bills. But the real game changer was just around the corner.
But the real turning point, the thing that changed everything, came in 2014 with the PayTM wallet. By letting you load money into a digital wallet, they got rid of the headache of typing in card details for every single little transaction. Little did they know, that one move was setting them up for an absolute economic earthquake just a couple of years down the road. And then it happened. In November 2016, the Indian government, in a shocking move, declared that 86% of the cash in the country was no longer valid. Just like that. Overnight, hundreds of millions of people and businesses were scrambling for a way to pay for things digitally. And PayTM wasn't just waiting in the wings. They were pretty much the only major player ready to handle that tidal wave of people.
And the result? Just look at this number. A 700% spike in traffic. Their user base just exploded, jumping from 140 million to 270 million in a matter of months. I mean, this is when the brand literally became a verb. Nobody said, send me a digital payment. They said, PayTM karo.
Okay, so getting users is one thing, but here's where PayTM showed its real genius. They figured out how to win over the other side of the equation, the millions and millions of small offline shopkeepers. And honestly, this is where they played chess while everyone else was playing checkers. Their whole strategy was basically to bring digital payments to the masses. Before them, your local tea stall or corner store was cash only. So what did they do? They just flooded the market with these super simple free QR code stickers. It was a brilliant, low-cost way to get every little shop on board, a part of the market that everyone else had totally ignored. But if you ask me, their real masterstroke, the thing that made them indispensable to merchants, was the soundbox. It's just a small, cheap little speaker that literally announces, payment of 50 rupees received on PayTM. This thing solved a massive headache for busy shopkeepers who didn't have to constantly check their phones anymore. This little box built an incredible amount of trust and made their service super, super sticky.
So, with millions of users on one side and this massive network of merchants on the other, PayTM officially hit its golden age. They looked unstoppable, and their vision grew way beyond just simple payments.
I mean, just look at this number. $16 billion. That's what they were worth at their peak, backed by the biggest investors in the world, like SoftBank and Berkshire Hathaway. At this point, PayTM wasn't just a cool app anymore. It was becoming a full-blown financial giant.
And their strategy was classic land and expand. Get people in the door with easy payments, something they use every day. And then, once you've got them, try to sell them everything under the sun right inside that one app. Movie tickets, insurance, loans, investments, the whole shebang. On paper, it was an unbeatable model.
But here's the thing. When you build a super app that wants to be a bank, an insurer, and a stockbroker all at once, you put a giant target on your back for regulators. And this is where that move fast and break things startup mentality slammed head-on into the brick wall of banking regulation. You know, this quote from the head of India's central bank just says it all, doesn't it? PayTM was the sleek, fast Ferrari, innovative, powerful, and changing the game. But when you're playing with the public's money, you still gotta obey the traffic laws. And from the regulator's point of view, PayTM was blowing through red lights left and right.
Now, this didn't happen overnight. It was more like a slow-motion car crash. For years, the RBI, India's central bank, was throwing up red flags about constant noncompliance. We're talking serious issues with know your customer rules, the basic checks to stop fraud. There were also worries that the parent company and the bank were way too cozy. That ban on adding new customers back in 2022, that was the last big warning shot across the bow. But even with all those warnings and restrictions, the core problems just weren't getting fixed. And that led to the final, unavoidable showdown, the central bank stepping in and putting an end to PayTM's banking dream for good. And this date marked the beginning of the end. The Reserve Bank of India officially moved to cancel their license, effectively starting the countdown to shut the whole thing down. The bride dream was officially over.
And listen to the language the RBI used in its final ruling. It is absolutely brutal. They didn't pull any punches. They basically said the bank's management was acting in a way that was harmful to its own customers and to the public. I mean, that's about as damning as it gets from a regulator.
And they didn't just pull this out of thin air. They used a specific part of the law, Section 22(4) of the Banking Act. You have to understand, using this provision is the regulatory equivalent of hitting the big red button. It's not a suspension. It's a full-on order to shut down. For good. Okay, so the bank is done. What's the takeaway from all this? This story is a huge cautionary tale for every ambitious fintech company out there, not just in India, but all over the world.
It really all boils down to three big lessons. 1, in fintech, following the rules isn't just some boring box you have to check. It has to be a core part of your product. 2, you can have the fanciest super app in the world, but it means nothing if your foundation is built on shaky ground. And 3, and this is the big one, trust with the regulator is everything. It takes forever to build, and you can lose it in an instant.
So just to be super clear on where things stand now, the PayTM app that millions still use is sticking around. But, and this is the key difference, it's not a bank anymore. It's now just a third-party app that has to rely on other, actual banks to move money around. That grand ambition of being a standalone financial powerhouse, that chapter is officially closed.
And all of this leaves us with one really important question to chew on. In this mad dash to innovate and disrupt, could it be that the real competitive advantage isn't about having the coolest tech, but about being the best at playing by the rules?
All right.